psychologists. They complete this Friday, and they will be starting work in Hampshire, in Essex and Kent in the new term. And they're going to show you how we've used personal learning space in order to support the enhanced studies that they've completed. 3 students here, the other 14 are online, and they will be answering questions from the floor as we go. So it's the whole class. Sarah.
Thank you. Yes, so we just basically want to use this as a bit of almost like a show and tell, to show you what we've been doing with Geoff for our enhanced studies placement and how we've been using technology. But just to give you a kind of rationale for it, these are the 6 frontiers that Geoff has been working on through this year. He says he calls them frontiers because they're not kind of challenges that we can choose to accept. They're not add-ons. This is the way that education's going. This is the way that the world is going. And as teachers, as students, as general citizens of the world, we're going to have to come and face them whether we like it or not. The only thing is how prepared we are and how prepared our students are for them. So it's this idea of kind of reflective learning, of having your own unique learning journeys and taking your own education into your own hands to represent what you're doing, digital literacy, employability mindset, being able to focus learning and publishing its accomplishments in personal learning spaces rather than having to upload everything to something that lots of people are uploading to. So the idea of it might not be an exercise book anymore, it's online, but it's still yours and you can carry it with you. And also using technology to capture and present soft skills. With all of this in mind, this is kind of how this workbook, which I'll show you my one, is how we tried to present our enhanced studies placements. So for enhanced studies, we needed a way that we could present what we were doing, whether it was I was in a charity in Ghana, Megan was in a primary school in Essex. So we were trying to show 2 very different learning journeys, but put them through here and through PebblePad. I just want to point out that I'm not trying to say that PebblePad is amazing. It is, but that's not the point. The point is the pedagogy that was behind it and how we've used this to enhance our own learning. So I will take you through my one, how I used it, and then give you some examples from the rest of the class. But please, if you have any questions as we go, please ask me. I've been trained to be a teacher, I'm used to being interrupted. Please just let me know. So, there aren't any questions at the moment. This is my workbook. So this is the workbook that Geoff put together the template for us, and we filled in as we went. So as I said, I was in Ghana. So the way that I used my workbook was that I created a diary. So all of these I've got an entry for every day, and they kind of, as it says on the tin, everything went in here from the classes that I ran, the children I was working with, but also when I met Nostridge, that went in there, when I went to the beach, that went in there. So this was very much my reflective space. And then on the placement, I could also put in experiences here. So these are some of my assets. And for example, I could put pictures up. So this is the boys playing football at one of the football matches that I went to, and I could reflect under that whenever there was a theme that I saw was arising. But most importantly, I found was the fact that this was so kind of piecemeal in that I could put things up when I wanted, when they occurred to me, when they happened, without having to try and see a big theme. So when I started, if you look at this one, when I started, I said that I was going to focus on looking at, I don't know if it's on there or not, I think it's in my video. So I said that I was going to look at learning resources within a developing country, look at teaching English as a second language or as an additional language. Actually, I found when I came back from Ghana and I read through all of my Dear Diary and I read through all my experiences, the more important story was the sense of community that they have there. But I only picked that up from my Dear Diary and from how many times I realised that I was talking about community, but I didn't really notice it as I was going. So that's the really important way that PebblePad allowed us to do that. It allowed us to reflect in the moment and then come back and try and find the important stories that we're going through our placements. So that was mine. You've all been given a little sticker, I think, by Reagan when you came in, through the VR scanner or through the tiny L at the bottom. You can have access to this, so please have a look through. I could spend 4 hours talking about mine and Jess's workbooks alone because we went to Ghana and Thailand, but I will try to move on. And there are lots and lots of examples here. I'm just going to pull out a couple that really show how we were able to use this technology and how the technology kind of let us enhance this experience. So this is Megan's. Megan, would you like to explain what was happening here?
Okay, so it sounds a little bit awful, not going to lie. So when I was in the primary school, we decided to have a recorder lesson. Now, I have never sat in a recorder lesson, and I don't know if any of you have sat into a recorder lesson. It's a bit hectic. So what I decided to do, rather than to kind of write up about this lesson, I decided to video it, so all of my peers could listen with this lovely music too. So, it was great fun. Now, this is actually trying to play the national anthem, so anyone could hear that. It got a bit better near the end, but I just was able to put on the videos and all my friends could see it and they could understand what the experience was. And I don't think I could have done that with just writing. I don't think it'd have the same impact.
Yeah, I just want to show, it does eventually sound like national anthem. I think this is the one. Or is it the other one? It was better. I just wanted to highlight as well, obviously there are certain things within our PGC that we do always need to be showing, and one of those is progress. But how on earth do you show the progress of a recorder lesson better than just filming them? You could have written up, you could have said, they were so much better by their 4th try, but that absolutely encapsulates it so much better. And this is how we're kind of trying to really use the technology to showcase things, rather than just have flashy things to produce at the end. So there's the recorder lesson. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was the idea of reflection and what the technology allowed us to do. So if there are 2 very different examples here. This is Jacob's reflection when he was working in an autism specialist school. And Jacob is very much someone who likes pen and paper, he likes writing things out, that's the way that his mind works. So he could write about this experience, when it took place, and then he was able to reflect on it underneath. But for other people, that's not necessarily the best way that they can reflect. I just wanted to show you Dina's, because Dina recorded this at the end of her placement that she had found quite challenging. And if you look, I'll just play the first kind of 30 seconds or so, but you can see how honest it let her feel, or let her be in her own reflections.
So week 4 of my enhanced placement was quite sad. In a way, I finally felt that I was being used and getting into the rhythm of things. So I was quite sad to leave, but at the same time I was just like, I think it's high time that I left. I learned a lot actually. I was able to be in a position where when I was put in and delivering classes, being told something 5 minutes before the lesson started and not really being worried I was taking over a class.
So again, that video is up on the page for you to look at, but this, being able to just record yourself, allowed Dina to kind of get across a lot more than she could have done if she was writing. And having spoken to her, Dina is someone who, with our course, at the beginning of the course, we were using paper learning journals. And like me, she said that she found it quite difficult to kind of engage with that, in that you might get to the end of the week and try and remember what happened, and all the emotion is left from that part of the week. Whereas for this, she hates me for showing this, because she keeps saying, but I'm in my pyjamas. But the point was, she could get to the end of the day, actually feel like she had something to say and record herself straight away. So there was that honesty there, and that real-time emotion that she could get across using this technology. The other thing is that if she'd wanted to, she did give me permission to show this eventually, but if she'd wanted to, this could have stayed completely for her own reflection. And I think that's really important in terms of our course, that most of the things that we do should be for us. They're all about the process rather than the product. and actually having a learning journal that we can give you at the end of the day, yes, part of that's partly important, but more important is us being able to reflect for ourselves and actually think about our own practice and actually think about when we found things challenging and when things were difficult for us, so that we can move forward from that. And so PebblePad allows us to do that and allows us to keep some things just for us, just private, so that we can look back on this in 6 weeks, a year's time, and think, look how far I've come, without actually having to give it to anyone who's assessing us. And that was something that Dina wanted to make really clear, that was how she found this technology particularly helpful in her circumstances. So if you want to have a look, these are a couple of just entries that people said about their own classes. So John was teaching in Spain, and Carolyn was very proud of the fact that she doesn't have an artistic bone in her body, and she created I don't even know how to say that word, orrery, with her primary school class. And again, it allowed her to put up photos of this rather than just trying to describe that she made some planets. The other thing that I wanted to say is, when we talk about digital literacy in action, we don't mean just being able to use technology in the way that it's given to us. The important thing is being able to make technology work for us. And that's really what we've been talking about a lot during our whole year, is this idea of giving students the skills to adapt technology. So we're not just slaves to the technology, we're not all wandering around attached to our phones, but actually we're making the technology work for us. Alec, would you like to explain? This was Alec's page about his professional investigation.
Right, so for my professional investigation, I was looking at how primary school teachers are able to teach many, many subjects, many of which aren't their specialist subject. Because I know as a psychology teacher, I will end up at some point teaching a non-specialist subject. So I did a little investigation where I asked them to rate on a scale of 1 to 5 of how comfortable they were with all the subjects that they taught at the school. And then I was able to use PebblePad to put this data into a table and represent it and show the maths on there, and then write a conclusion and an introduction above and below it. Now, in order to do this, I needed to create a custom template. So Geoff provided everyone with these templates to use, and PebblePad provides you with some already, but you can also make your own. So the majority of my workbook is templates that I made myself. So you can pick and choose which aspects you want. You can choose where you want to put pictures, you can choose where you want to put text, you can put Likert scales, numeric things, lists going down, so you can really personalise it to how you want, and you can also make your own workbook from scratch if you wanted to, but I just fit my customisations into Geoff's workbook, and that seemed to fit really well. So I made mine sort of like a mini website with hyperlinks all over the place that went to my different diary posts. And so that was quite easy to use. So you can see at the bottom there, you can just quickly navigate to different aspects of my reflections rather than having to go back through the menus. So you can just quickly go to the bottom and just find everything there.
Thank you. Yeah, so Alec very much used it, kind of went off and played with PebblePad a bit more than some of us did. I stuck with what Geoff told me to do. But that's because actually at the end of the day, I'm not as good at computers as Alec, but it allowed us to use it as much as we could and to start investigating it and start playing with it. But also, again, I didn't do a professional investigation that needed anything like this. I was just doing observations. So again, it was a way that whatever you did in your enhanced studies placement, it could be presented through PebblePad, whether it was through videos or through tables and more scientific kind of reports. With that in mind...
Can you show John in Spain, and also can you show the Jess in Bangkok, where she introduces her time there? Incidentally, the students are talking gaily amongst themselves here, very happily, and sharing pictures, but we're not getting any questions. So if anyone has any questions, please let us know so we can answer them for you.
Yeah, so this is John teaching in Spain. And again, he used videos and photos to show how he was doing and to show his progress. And to also, we were talking about putting your accomplishments online. And he does this by saying at the end, he talks about the fact that the English teachers had said that just his presence in the school had really improved the English levels throughout the school. So he could advertise that and if he wanted to, he could share this if he was looking for a job and they said, show me something important that you've done. He could share this page or his whole workbook as a CV or as part of his application.
Can I ask, how many of you in your group were, you said that you were less IT literate than maybe some other people. How many in your group at the start of the year were comfortable or used any of the technology before?
I think like 2 people actually use PebblePad.
Yeah,
Is
I
that-
haven't used it before, but it's quite easy to pick up.
Yeah, I think by the end of it, there were probably 2 people who were still saying, I'm not sure about this, I don't know how it works. And we had a few kind of upside down photos and videos that you had to watch like this. But other than that, I think everyone could use it by the end of it. And in fact, last time we were giving this presentation, somebody sent me a comment on WhatsApp saying, I think it was Pritesh said, I didn't know how to use it. I'm still not sure I know how to use the full capability, but the point is I should know. And as a teacher, I should absolutely learn how to use it so that I can teach my students how to use it. It has to happen. I can't back away from this.
And Geoff, how many sessions? How long did it take you to get the students to a stage where they were really using it?
It's hard to say really. It took about 2 hours to build the site, so it's about a 2-hour job. Once we had it set up and running, what would you say? How quick do you think you were getting going with it, folks?
Well, we had one session where Geoff introduced it, how to use it, and then we had the afternoon where it was just go and see how it fits for you. Like, not this is how I use it.
Yeah.
Just this is what I've created. Go and use it for yourself.
Yes. The secret is that you explain the pedagogy. If you get the mindset right, the technology makes sense. It's that old adage about trying to write a Word document in Excel. It doesn't quite work. And you blame the technology for it rather than the mindset. If you get the mindset, get the pedagogy, which is why Sarah and the others are talking about the pedagogy behind this rather than talking about the technology is almost incidental. It's what it supports that's important.
I have a very good comment actually from WhatsApp. Someone called Carolyn, she's on our course. She said we weren't comfortable at the beginning as she was a bit of a technophobe, but it was actually very easy to use and much better than writing it all in a journal. There you go.
Yeah, I think Carolyn actually was probably the person who struggled the most. But was fine by the end of it. And this is her page, and she could show different videos and photos to show her creation in its full glory.
This is our solar system.
So she could use it by the end of it, absolutely, it was. And also, the other thing, one of the frontiers we were talking about soft skills and the rounded person and how we want to develop those. And one of those soft skills is definitely collaboration. And so through the actual workbooks, we could collaborate on them by commenting on each other's. So this is Adam's page. Adam was one of the first to do his. And he could get messages from Geoff. And for our course, this is so important. Because as I say, we were not even just around the country, we were literally around the globe with this placement. So trying to keep in contact with Geoff and being able to have comments where he was saying, this is looking good, have you thought about this, why don't you try and look into this in your time there, was really important. But then also, we could, Stephen and I could also comment on people's pages and help each other. So there was an aspect of collaboration actually through the technology, but also an aspect of collaboration when we were trying to work out how the technology worked. Obviously everybody could help each other, and with our WhatsApp group there would often be a kind of message going, I'm really confused, how do I turn a photo around? Which was easily answered by someone saying, hit that button. Oh yes, look, it works.
Adam has actually responded as well, and he said he felt a little bit out of his comfort zone to begin with, but then he felt like he got the hang of it once he started to use it.
I've only got a couple more to show you, and then we'll go on to questions in earnest if you've got any more. One is to just show this front sheet of the page. So Geoff asked us all to film a video saying this is me and this is what I want to do. So it had to be a selfie video of 60 seconds just saying what your plan was, and if I'm honest, most of us looked at each other and went, oh god, that sounds awful and really cringy. But we did it, And we did the first one because we were told to, and then it was remarkable how many people actually ended up using it again during their workbooks when they didn't have to. And I think that in the world of Skype interviews and online conferences and presentations that you're giving to people from around the country, being able to talk on a camera is one of those skills that we're going to have to get used to. You can no longer say, oh, but I hate the sound of my voice on the recording. Nobody cares. Everybody wants you online. And so these videos, again, have a look at Emily's if you have time later, but these videos gave us the beginnings of those skills. So now we're not quite as terrified if someone was to say, right, for your interview, I want you to film yourself and tell me exactly why I should give you the job. Actually, we're all used to it now, and we'd go, all right, a little bit cringy, but sure, of course I will. And a lot of people started to use it when they wanted to. The last thing that I just wanted to show is another one of mine, in which, yes, we could video ourselves, but obviously with children, it's very important to protect privacy and things like that. But I wanted to allow some of the kids that I had in my class in Ghana to hear themselves, and we'd been working on some stories, but I didn't want to film their faces. So this is one of the stories. So this is background was the classroom. It was a photo of the classroom that I was working in Ghana. And this is a story that Elihan wrote, read by Gifty.
One sunny day, Amma was going to school and she met a stranger. Then the stranger said to Amma, "Come and collect some toffees." Then all of a sudden, she was running back home. Although they were afraid, every student ran home. In the next moment, the stranger just vanished on the road. They finished their day by killing the stranger with a car and a motorbike.
So they're a little bit morbid at the end. I'm not quite sure how that got in there. This was just a really nice way of using technology to showcase who I was working with. It shows their skills. That was a 10-year-old writing in their second language. But also, I could send a message back to last week or whenever we did the presentation, I could send a message back to PAR saying, or our coordinator, saying, please will you tell Elham and Gifty that their story has just been read out to a room of lecturers in Canterbury University, which they were, by what he said, very excited to hear. So I think that's the last example that I really wanted to show, and also to just say that, see, one of our frontiers was also talking about online reputation, and this was another thing that was really important. It is a way of teaching, whether it's student teachers or us teaching our students, about online reputation and about being professional online and making sure that you're only sharing things that are appropriate to share, as opposed to suddenly putting up a video saying my placement is awful, I hate my mentor, and I really wish I hadn't come to Canterbury Christchurch. Not that anyone ever says that, but it's a way of teaching people about online reputation and about being careful of what you put online. And that is such an important skill that our students, again, are just going to have to learn. There is no choice in the matter. It's not that we can suddenly use this and it's an amazing add-on to our course. It's flashy and the output is awesome. No, it's just teaching skills that are going to have to be taught and going to have to be learned. And actually, as amazing as PebblePad is, as we keep saying, the end product is not the important thing. The important thing is that we could all come home having actually engaged in reflection, having learned some soft skills, having collaborated with each other, and having pulled together this story of our placement. Anything to add, guys?
What have we got on the WhatsApp?
Stephen has got on here.
Picture Stephen.
I feel like we should get Stephen.
This is
So you know
Stephen.
who we're talking.
This is our first student who's got a placement, NQT year at a public school at Battle Abbey.
So this is Stephen.
Sorry, you go ahead. I just wanted to show his school.
Okay. So he said about PebblePad, he felt slightly overwhelmed to start with. However, after a few applications, I finally understood the interface, and it was great to use as a reflection of our work and successful lessons. There we go.
Excellent. Excellent, yeah, and he put up loads of photos of his school. I think he was just showing off, to be honest. His school's amazing, and he kept just sending us photos of the library. But it was nice that he could do that. So please, does anybody have any questions about how we've used it, and for Geoff or for the rest of the class? Yeah.
How did you, in terms of working with PebblePad, then how, and then you said, you know, obviously there's spaces where it can be private, and the stuff that you chose to share, how did that work with working with mentors in the schools? Or, I mean, I guess if you're a Ghana in enhanced studies, it's slightly different, but did you roll out to kind of your bog standard regular school placement? How did you guys interact?
So we weren't actually using this right at the beginning of the year for our main school placement, but if you, where's my PebblePad? So this is my PebblePad in general. So all of these things are things that I've put up, and whenever I wanted to put it into my kind of official learning journal that has gone into my folder for my record of development, I just tagged something so it went into a collection. So you can put tags on, and you could also, I didn't think of it early enough, but if I was going to do it again, you can also tag things with the standards and things like that. So I could have a collection that if you search for standard 4, there's a collection of things that show that I'm, that demonstrate standard 4. But some of them I just could have not tagged with the official learning journal, so I could have kept that for me, and had 2 different ones. Equally, it's all about who you want to invite in. So you offer to share with people rather than just everyone being able to see your work. So I could just share with one mentor, and I could also give different privileges to my mentor and Geoff, who could comment on it and assess it and things, but then give viewing rights to the rest of my class. So there's different levels, and then other things I could very much just keep for myself, and not tag it for the public stuff.
Probably a question for Geoff. Geoff, does that mean the mentors need a can that be, is that public facing, or would anybody who you wanted to share it with need a Canterbury?
No, it's private, and anybody can be given access. My auntie could have access.
Without a Canterbury log.
Wouldn't need it, because the student publishes it to the named person, so you have the rights to see this. Yeah. So it could be anybody.
Yeah.
Can I ask how you used it with your evidence bundles?
The evidence
we came
bundles.
to this at the end of the course.
Yeah,
Right.
the evidence bundles and this were.
Because it was just where you were showing the recorder and the pupil progress and the video of that, I was thinking that's really nice evidence that you could link into your evidence bundle.
Absolutely, and we've said, all our class have said that if it was kind of, if we'd done it again, we'd have used PebblePad all year, and we'd have used it for our evidence bundles, we'd have used it for our C tasks, we'd have stopped having a folder this big to bring down from London every day we're coming to uni, and we'd have just done it all on here. But we kind of came to it too late to do it with our evidence bundles this year.
Carolyn has actually come up with a really good point when you was kind of talking about the sharing with our mentors. She was saying that you just kind of share the bits that you're happy with, which means that we can do a reflection on maybe the most interesting lesson in the world. However, if it doesn't show anything that we could have improved on, then we wouldn't necessarily share that, but we'd keep it to ourselves so we can work on it in our NQT year.
And the other thing to say with that, in terms of only showing things that you're happy with, is unlike a piece of paper, you can come back and edit this. So actually, if you think, I literally changed my workbook this morning because I was on my way here and I thought, I could have phrased that better. And you can edit things and you can improve them, and you can write a reflection and say, this is what happened, this is what I think now. And there's a template called what, so what now? So you could do a lesson, fill in the what, say what happened. That afternoon, fill in the so what and say what that meant to you at the time, and then come back to it in a few days and go, okay, now I've calmed down, whether it was a good or a bad lesson, now I've actually thought about it, this is what I need to do next time. Was there, somebody have a question back?
Thank you, I'm really sorry if you've already covered this because I came in late, but can you take this with you into your NQT year? Is it exportable?
Yeah, so all of this stays with us, and PebblePad, we can turn it into an alumni account and we get it forever. Which is very exciting, and we're all already talking about putting all of our professional development into a workbook rather than having to have a folder.
Is it compatible with things like Blue Sky that a lot of schools are using now?
Blue Sky. No, Blue Sky's a bit. No, this is more modern than that, so it's a little bit ahead of that, and wouldn't
being used by schools still.
Schools are using it, even though it's
It's
less
the,
sophisticated.
it's the tension between personal learning space and knowledge repository space, and that's the clash that you've got seeing there. But for our students, I mean, the thing is what Sarah's saying is that this is the kind of technology which is about personalisation of learning, personalised learning. This is the technology that's going to be driving education in the next few years. So we're preparing our students to be able to take that into their schools, I hope. And this is part of what I would call the Christchurch signature of our students that they're taking into their schools. And they will be challenging the school VLE, which is, you know, like Blackboard and things, which is dated.
I've got a question from the student point of view. I mean, as colleagues know, I've got one eye on next year's learning journal because I have some responsibility for what it looks like this year, so tell me. But we know that we had an electronic version for this year, and I think, looking at colleagues, not many people engaged, not many students engaged with it electronically, at least that's the feedback I'm getting. Most people have done it as a paper journal. Nods agreement generally.
I've had lots that were printed.
Okay. How do we get, if a decision were to be taken for next year, who knows, that there isn't a paper journal, how do we get the student cohort to be as enthusiastic and as fired up as you are, to be able to move to an electronic journal, were that to be the decision that's taken?
I think the difference between the electronic journal that was basically paper but on Microsoft Word as opposed to this is that it was still a template that you filled out, and from, you know, if you've got however many lesson plans and things, you did fill it out on a Sunday night if you were good, and kind of try and think, oh, what was it that happened on Monday? And I think the problem, the template that we had, whether you were typing it or whether you were writing it, literally just changed whether you were using a keyboard or a pen. The point about this was that I could literally walk out of the class, use Pebble Pocket on my mobile, and write 3 lines about something and send it to PebblePad, almost between classes. And I did a few times when I was working at the college. I would suddenly send something saying, just had a great lesson with Lucy, she worked really well, blah, 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 send. And then at the end of because we were still using the template, when I came to write, I then actually had things that I could look back on and go, oh yeah, I'd totally forgotten that had gone so well with Lucy. I've only focused on the things that have gone badly, or I'd forgotten about that on Tuesday because something big happened on Friday. And so actually it was the fact that we could send lots of little assets into this that was more important than it just happening to be online.
So from your experience, yeah, absolutely. From your experience, the three of you, could you see that being all the wonderful work you've done there, being a whole journal, in fact, for next year? Or in a future year, should I say?
I think Sarah's right, because of the effective use of it and how quick it is to use. I think you can definitely put the learning journal into it. I mean, as we've said before, some of them really did like just the written learning journal, and sometimes it was a little easier. However, I think, especially when you're going from one class to the other, you can even record your voice and just say, oh, this is what we're good and this is what we're bad, and you can type it up later.
So can I make a comment? It's not a question to you, it's actually a response to me. That whether we change it or not, next year students don't know.
Precisely, yeah.
You know, if this has been presented to you as this is what we're doing,
yeah.
At the beginning of the year.
Yeah, fair enough.
The challenge is going to be for me.
And also within the group, were there any colleagues you felt you needed to bring kicking and screaming to PebblePad? Because we're talking about a group of 12, 15 students here. If we're thinking about doing this at some stage, program-wide, we're talking 200, 300 students.
There were people that kind of came kicking and screaming to it a little bit, but I think all of them, I don't know if you've had other conversations,